Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a big box of Bach. Well, it's not as big as a box of Bach can be, because we all know the big boxes of Bach can be absolutely bodaciously enormous. 300 plus CDs, God knows. Nope, this only has 15, but it's quite interesting nonetheless. It's all of the Bach from Jean-François Paillard on Erato. Now, in case you don't know who Jean-François Paillard was, he ran the Jean-François Paillard Chamber Orchestra, which had previously been called the Ensemble Instrumental Jean-Marie Leclerc. Don't ask me why. And then it switched to the Jean-François Paillard Chamber Orchestra, or the Orchestre de Chambre Jean-François Paillard. Now, Paillard was the guy who made the recording of the Pachelbel canon, which was the feature of every National Public Radio pledge drive during the 1980s and the early 80s. Oh, it used to make me insane. Please, they would say, call in, give us money, and we will play the Pachelbel canon again. And they would play it again and again and again and again. And then, of course, it came out on period instruments. And, I made a video about the Pachelbel canon. You may want to have a look at it with featuring this recording. Anyway, it's not in here. This is Bach. Here's the point. The reason this set is interesting is because these recordings date from 1958 to 1983. You get all of Bach's major orchestral works. You get the orchestral suites. In fact, you get one more than he actually wrote. You get number 5, which is attributed to Wilhelm Friedemann. You get all of his concertos. You get reconstructed concertos, that is, keyboard concertos restored to what we think might have been their original form for either violin or wind instruments or the two in combination. You get a bunch of those. You get a few cantatas, just for the hell of it. You get the Brandenburgs. I don't know, did I say that? I don't know. You get all the keyboard concertos, sometimes multiple times over. And they're performed by marvelous people. Marvelous people. You get, let's see, well, Birgit Finelay, the singers. Robert Véron-Lacroix is the keyboard specialist person, along with A.M. Becksteiner and a bunch of others at harpsichord. And for you also get a bunch of these concertos played on piano, early recordings with Pascal de Voyant and Queffelec and Michel d'Alberto and just Georgi Sebok, Pierre Amoyal. You've got Jean-Pierre Rampal doing flute stuff. You've got Maurice Andre. Just a wonderful Marie-Claire Alain on the organ. You get wonderful French people and non-French people who were Bach specialists doing this stuff from 1958 to 1983. And in that time, the Jean-François Paillard Chamber Orchestra, conducted by Jean-François Paillard, send in your pledge, went from being the apotheosis of, at the forefront of the movement to restore Bach's orchestral music to normative performance, to hopelessly passé in light of the period instrument movement. And this process takes place in this little box. It all takes place in this little box. Now, as for the performances themselves, we don't have to go through this disc by disc. You just got a lot of Bach orchestral music. All the major works are here. We don't have to go into them in any detail at all. What you need to know is that the performances are lively and very attractive. This group was sort of the French I Musici, if, to draw a comparison. It was a modern instrument group that played very, very accomplished performances, polished performances of Baroque repertoire, and quite a lot of it. They came to Bach actually a bit later in their careers. They specialized in the French Baroque, obviously, being French, at least initially. And, there's a huge box of stuff that Erato put out featuring these guys, if you're interested. But the fact of the matter is that they sounded so hopelessly passé by the time the 80s rolled around, because by then you had all of the British and German period instrument groups doing things, quote unquote, authentically, which is not to say musically, just authentically, and saying that these people and I musici and many of these wonderful, wonderful chamber orchestras that performed all this Baroque music were totally, completely, utterly wrong and evil and despicable and just out of date, as if the music goes out of date. I mean, like the music just has an expiration date on it, and it had expired, and now we have to have this new one, which had not expired. Looking back on it, the entire sort of musical culture and theory that allowed excellent musicians like these to be completely sidelined and dismissed as anachronistic is just horrible, just terrible. It's such a shallow and unhelpful way of looking at music. I mean, what matters is you put the music on, you play it, you like it. If you like it, it's great. It's fine for you. It's fine. It's the same music as the other guys are doing, just a little differently. Not even that much differently when you come right down to it. I mean, the technique is superb, polished, and the musicianship is impeccable. And I mean, what the hell more do we want? You have to ask yourself. But since this, there have been so many recordings of this music now on period instruments with a whole new orthodoxy and approach to doing Baroque music. And the question is there room? Is there life in this still? And my answer to you is yes. There is particularly life when it's all put together. And you remember I had my little talk on the Barbarelli box, how boxes make you see things differently. This little 15 CD box is one of those, because you hear how they began with the Bach keyboard concertos played on piano, and then they switched to harpsichord. And as time went on, they refined their approach in many ways. And it's wonderful to hear. It's wonderful to hear the style develop. It's wonderful to hear the music played with such affection and such nuance and sympathy. I think it's all tremendously effective and moving and just lovely. And of course, some people put them. I remember playing these and hearing people come in and saying, "Oh, it's so soft-edged. It's so pretty. It's merely pretty. Bach should be ugly. It should be rough. It should be harrowing. It should be." Stop it. Stop it. Just stop it. All of this music is hugely stylized, and however expressive it may be, it's done in the most cultivated possible way. And yes, you can overplay this music. I mean, you can be fussy, you can be mincing, you can be absolutely puerile in the way that you approach the music, but they're never that way. They play it as beautifully as they know how. And I had such a good time getting back in touch with these old recordings. I really did, because I haven't listened to them in decades. I really haven't. And you put them on and you realize it's just good stuff. It's really just good stuff. It's the same way I felt listening to Neville Marriner doing the Haydn symphonies that I thought were kind of bland and uninteresting. Then I listened to them again and realized in listening to the Eloquence box, wow, these guys played beautifully. They really played beautifully. They understood what they were doing. They went to the heart of the music in their way, and so do these guys. And if you find, this constant period performance one-upsmanship that's been going on over the past couple of decades. That was the way we did it last week. Now I've discovered a new treatise, and the new treatise says that you add the noodle ornament over the second grace note in every gruppetto, and that makes all the difference. I mean, if that stuff is starting to get tiresome to you, and I can't even begin to tell you how tiresome it is to me, I think it's great to go back to this and just enjoy it. Just put on the music and just enjoy it. And that's what I did. I just had a good time. I had a really, really good time, thanks to Monsieur Paillard. It's no wonder that they named a chicken dish after him. He is definitely a Paillard of choice. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.